Are you someone that's been trying to grow your hair and have it grow thicker and longer? Well, let me share with you what I have been doing, and I have been seeing a huge difference in my hair. So I have been consuming every single morning collagen powder from Primal Kitchen. I get the chocolate. I also have tried vanilla, and they're both so yummy. There's a ton of other flavors too, but I love chocolate. So every morning I put together some hemp milk, a couple of scoops of the collagen powder. Sometimes I throw in some organic fruit in there. And that's it. That's my breakfast. And my hair has been growing, honestly, almost a little out of control. It's growing so fast. So if you want to check it out, check out the collagen powders. They're amazing and they just taste so good. Head over to Primal Kitchen, PrimalKitchen.com and put in the code Margaret R10 for 10% off of any collagen powder or actually anything on their website. Trust me, you're going to love how fast your hair grows. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast. My name is Margaret Romero. I'm a Columbia-trained functional medicine nurse practitioner, and here I uncover the truth behind chronic illness so that you can finally heal. I'm a women's health and hormone expert and love empowering women to finally live their life fully and powerfully through optimal health. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another week of the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and this week we have a new guest, MaryEllen Reider, and we are talking all about pelvic floor dysfunction. You know what that is? That is and causes urinary incontinence. And if you've had children, most likely you have experienced this. Maybe you are laughing or you sneeze or you cough and there's a little bit of urinary incontinence. So we're talking all about that and what to do for it. And I also asked her a question about orgasms and if orgasms help with incontinence. So you have to listen in to hear her response. And we also talk a lot about the reasons why this happens and as well as what to do for it. So without further ado, on to the show. All right, so we are back and we have a new guest today, MaryEllen Reider. MaryEllen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Definitely. I think it's such a really important topic because so many women, I think, suffer from this. So we're talking all about pelvic floor issues. And why don't you kind of explain some of the things that women may be experiencing if they actually have pelvic floor dysfunction?
So the pelvic floor dysfunction, I think, is a massive umbrella that encompasses so many different things. Mm-hmm. So you can go from like one end, kind of where your pelvic floor muscle is hypertoned and it's extremely tense. It's clenched all the time. And a lot of times people report that sex is extremely painful because that muscle can't relax. So penetration is very, very difficult and painful. Mm-hmm. And then you have people who have a very relaxed, loosened pelvic floor muscle. And a lot of times that can lead to issues such as prolapse, where certain organs can descend. Because if you think about your pelvic floor like a hammock, this hammock goes from all across your pubic bone, base of your spine, and it holds your bladder, your uterus, and your visceral organs into their natural position. So if that hammock is sagging and it's not toned, sometimes things can either slip through, or you just don't have control over your bowels. So you have people who have urinary incontinence, the involuntary leakage of urine, or you could have fecal incontinence, which is the involuntary leakage of poo. And all of this really comes from the lack of tone in your pelvic floor muscles, the lack of control, tone within those muscles. And we usually don't focus in or know that those muscles even exist until something's going on. We don't have a lot of knowledge to prevent it as a preventative measure. It's usually as like a treatment measure that we realize that these muscles exist.
Got it. Okay. So I think that, from being a nurse practitioner in women's health, I've definitely heard both sides of the coin here. So I've had women with painful intercourse. I've had women that can't even sneeze or cough without having some type of urinary incontinence. So what are give us a few reasons why this happens to some women, not to everyone. Let's start with the incontinence factor.
Yeah. So there's so many different factors that can be associated with it. You have, pregnancy, childbirth, that both cause a lot of strain and pressure onto those pelvic floor muscles. Repetitive movement, like if you are a runner or participate in sports like gymnastics, where there's high impact and a lot of jumping around, where those pelvic floor muscles are constantly going up and down, that can cause some issues as well. And menopause, hormones, weight. I feel like women are we kind of draw the short end of the stick, because it's almost like, what is not a factor at this point?
Right.
For doing that. And we don't hear about toning of these pelvic floor muscles until we go to like the doctor, or we figure out, maybe peeing my pants and I'm sneezing, laughing, or coughing isn't normal. It's super common, but it's not normal. And I think a lot of the times especially in women's health, anything around the vulvovaginal area, we're kind of taught to suck it up and just to deal with it, because it's just a badge that you wear as being a woman. It's just part of motherhood or womanhood. And we're kind of here at Yarlat to change that dynamic, to change that conversation, where just because something's normal and you and your friends might all have this issue does not necessarily mean that it's something that you have to live with. It's something that you should probably go and talk to somebody, and don't have any shame about that, because I think a lot of times we have this understanding that if we talk about ourselves and we talk about our vagina, it's in a sexual way and we should kind of feel ashamed. And that's so not true. That is the opposite. You should be extremely proud that you're looking to better your wellness and your health.
Absolutely.
And so if you do have something like that, we always say, go talk to your doctor. It might be uncomfortable, it might be weird, but go talk to them, because they're going to know the correct route. Because you don't want to do Kegel exercises if your muscle is too tense. That's not going to do any good to you. Clenching an already clenched muscle is not going to give you any benefit. You want to learn how to relax those muscles. And your doctor, whomever, is going to know that history and your anatomy better than, me on this on this podcast. So if you do feel like, oh, maybe something is up, something is different, definitely go have that conversation, because there's no shame, and you should never feel any shame.
Of course. Absolutely. So are these, I guess this is kind of I've always thought about this. So, I've never had children, so I don't have these bladder issues or anything like that. And it may not even be completely do single women who've never had children experience it at the same, probably not at the same degree as women who've had children? Do you know?
Yeah. So it really, a lot of people associate incontinence, or pelvic floor issues with older women. When I started out at Yarlap, I always assumed that it was grandmas and grandmas only, and that's not true by any means. It actually happens in every different age group, right? You have women in your 20s who are super athletic, who have this issue because they're constantly moving that pelvic floor muscle, but they're not keeping it toned and in check. You have women who are trying to conceive or who are pregnant who are told to do Kegel exercises, and they just don't know how to do it because oftentimes those exercises are really vague and it's hard to isolate and tone a muscle that you can't even see. Mm-hmm. And then you have women who have had kids and that are postpartum who have had it. It really doesn't matter if you've had kids or not. It really just depends on your lifestyle and the tone of your pelvic floor muscles. And it's not just a physical aspect, but also a mental aspect as well. There are, a few studies that with a hypertoned, tense muscle, it can also be very mental as well, that you have to kind of unblock that mental roadblock to help relax and release those pelvic floor muscles. So I would say it's like any part of your health. It is not just a physical game. It's also a mental game as well.
Okay. So my initial question was, does it make a difference with how many women who have incontinence? And I'm not really speaking on the women who've had multiple children or, pregnancies, because I think I can see why that happens. But what about the women who, how do I word this? Does having multiple orgasms, let's say, make a difference with pelvic floor dysfunction?
Yeah. So any part is all integral, especially your sexual wellness part, because fun fact, your clitoris runs right along the pelvic floor muscles. So you always see these articles that are coming out and they're like, do this exercise to be fire in the bedroom. And you inevitably click on it because why not? Right. And they always say, do your Kegel exercises. And I think a lot of people associate that with the vagina and they're like, oh, it makes the vagina tighter. No, it actually engages your pelvic floor muscles and tones the pelvic floor muscles. And when you are having sex and your orgasm and if you think about it, let's stop, think about it. Last time you had an orgasm, you had a pulsing, clenched feeling, right?
Right.
That's actually your pelvic floor muscle engaging and you're doing a Kegel exercise.
Oh, right.
So
right.
When you are doing these, there are different camps within any part of women's wellness, right? Where you have journals and opinions. But one of the camps is that the orgasm is a female maintenance tool, because when you're having an orgasm, you're engaging the pelvic floor muscles correctly. And you're having this insane response to the orgasm, you're clenching, you feel all these muscles in your body's working out. Your pelvic floor muscle is probably toned properly if you have this mind-blowing experience. When you're having sex and you can feel your orgasm coming, no pun intended, you have this muscle response, this second nature, muscle memory that kicks in, and your body goes, I know how to do this. I know how to do it properly. I know how to do it really well. And I know how to do it very strongly. And when you do have an orgasm and your pelvic floor muscle is engaged and it's clenching, you have this very intense response to the orgasm because your muscles know what to do and how to do it really well. And so that's why you always see these Kegel exercises being thrown around everywhere. It doesn't really have anything. It doesn't have a lot to do with the vagina. It's actually to do with your pelvic floor response.
Right.
In conjunction at the same time in unison with the orgasm. And so if you're having multiple orgasms, that's fantastic. You're basically getting a workout. You are getting a workout and you're working out your pelvic floor muscles. So you're doing exercise and fun all in one.
Yeah, right. Right. Especially when women have very intense and very strong orgasm, I would assume, I don't know, has there been a study that has shown that women who have very strong or even just multiple orgasms or very frequent orgasms tend to have 0 to very low pelvic floor dysfunction?
I don't know if there's any studies that have been done in regards to that. I'm sure that there are. In the past few years, there have been a lot more studies on the orgasm response in the pelvic floor. Back when we started in 2015, there actually wasn't a lot to go off of when it came to orgasm research, which is very crazy in my opinion. But in the past few years, there have been quite a few studies that, especially in Europe, done about the orgasm. And there are a few that try to differentiate squirting and gushing and all these different things because there is a difference. I think a lot of people don't realize that sometimes when you gush, it can actually be urine because female ejaculate comes in a very small amount. And sometimes people pee themselves. And so there are a few, and you don't have like the control, you don't have that pelvic floor control to prevent yourself from peeing while you're having an orgasm. And so it's kind of this, there are studies, but I don't know if they're what you're talking about just yet. I'm sure some institute somewhere has definitely published. I'm not aware of them at this time, but I know that there are quite a few actually that are coming up with differentiating between female ejaculate and urine when it comes to squirting and gushing, which I think is interesting because when you're having an orgasm and you're clenching that pelvic floor, but at the same time, some people involuntarily pee themselves, and that's a lack of pelvic floor control. So there's a lot of different things working on all the time with your orgasm.
Right. I have a feeling that I've read a study that was done with, this was a long time ago, so don't quote me on this, that was done with nuns. And so I don't remember exactly the context, but it having to do with pelvic floor, I believe. And so I would have to go back and check that out on PubMed to see, I'm assuming that this population of women have had, I can't even say. Do they have less orgasms? I don't know. Who knows? I know that they're not allowed to have sex, but maybe they're self-pleasuring and we don't even know. Maybe there's like a thing that they just learn to self-pleasure. I don't know. But anyway, my point is that I think that there are, I know that there has been research that has shown that orgasm ability will in fact help pelvic floor dysfunction. But to what degree, I guess I don't know because I haven't really looked into it. Do you know the answer to that question?
Yeah, so there is not like a number. I don't know a number specifically, but I know a lot of people, including sex therapists, who very strongly recommend having an orgasm because it not only helps you clench, but it also helps you relax muscles as well.
Right.
And so you have a lot of people who have very hypertoned muscles, and sex can be extremely painful, but when they have an orgasm, those muscles relax. And so the orgasm is not like a one size fits all cure, but it could be a key to help really engage those muscles properly because it's going to engage the correct muscles.
Right.
A lot of times, doctors, physical therapists, everybody including myself, but before Yarlap, when I would try to do and engage my pelvic floor, I was engaging my butt, my abs, my thighs, and maybe part of the pelvic floor, but not in its entirety. And it's because I couldn't see it. I physically could not see the muscles. And so how am I supposed to tone a muscle? I can't even see. How am I supposed to relax a muscle? I cannot even see. And so you have a lot of people who are like, well, maybe just have like a really great orgasm multiple times a day. Give that a shot. Maybe that helps. But I know that orgasms do help, clench, but also relax those muscles as well. But again, everybody's body is different.
Sure.
So you really do want to make sure that you talk to your licensed healthcare professional to say, like, where am I on this? Am I too toned? Am I at this point, like, hyper, just really tense? Or do I just not have enough control over it? And there's no signal being sent because that muscle is really atrophied. It's really weakened. And it's not getting any of the signals I'm telling it to clench. Where am I on this pelvic floor tone scale? Where am I? And they can do a few different tests to figure that out and then really get you on the way where you know what specific exercises that you want to do. Because again, if you're super tense, Kegels are not going to give you the benefits that you're looking for.
Exactly.
But and so you're better off with dilators and deep breathing exercises and all these other things. But don't go and self-diagnose. I've been guilty of that, and you end up in tears on the bathroom floor. So don't do that. But yeah, your pelvic floor has so much to do, and it's not just like a incontinence bladder control aspect, but it's also your sexual and orgasmic response as well. And also even deeper than that, it can do, back pain and knee pain, because if your pelvic floor muscles have gotten tired or weakened and they can't do and hold up anymore, your back muscle comes in and tries to compensate for it. But your back was never meant to compensate for to do what the pelvic floor was supposed to do. And so then you have this unexplained back pain. And then once that your back is like, this is way too much, you guys, I can't do this. And then that gives out because of the structural mechanics in your body. That structural load then goes down to your knees, and your knees are compensating for this load. So it's not just like a bladder control response. It is a whole anatomical balance of, making sure everything is correctly done, that you have a really great orgasm, sex is not painful, and that your muscles are holding up and doing what they were intended to do, and no muscle is compensating for another one.
Great. I'm curious what your thoughts are about the Jade Eggs.
I think that any tool that goes in and helps you is great. My one suggestion going in is to always make sure that you are using the correct muscles. So if you're using a Jade Egg, just make sure that you're using the pelvic floor muscles. You're not clenching your butt to keep it in.
That's true.
Yeah. So you want to, and this goes to any tool, any device of any muscle, is that you want to make sure that you're using the proper, correct muscles. But because, it's going in and it's being inserted vaginally, you want to make sure that it is engaging the pelvic floor muscles and not, your butt, you're not holding it in with your thighs or anything like that. But any tool for engaging your pelvic floor, I say, why not? Give it a try.
Yeah. So the Jade Egg is, they come in different sizes, and it's a crystal that around it, sort of, it looks like an egg, that's inserted into the vagina. I have seen like 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large. And then the point is for like the small one to be able to hold it in place so it doesn't come out, and thereby they say tightening the vaginal or pelvic floor muscles. And I've also
Yep.
seen women, they have two holes in them and you can put a weight on them. Apparently, I've never tried this, though I do have a Jade Egg. I haven't used it in a long time. And you string something that's, I don't even know what, maybe another crystal to it. And so it adds weight to it. So then you're really focusing on keeping that egg within your vagina without it slipping out with the weight. So, am I right about that? Did I leave out anything? Is that how you understand it?
I personally don't know much about jade eggs other than what I read online about them and what, Dr. Jen Guthrie has talked about the jade eggs. I don't know how they're weighted, but I know that they're used to engage your pelvic floor muscles, but I have no idea how you attach weights to those.
Yeah. So you can, and then, you start small and then you work your way up. Do you know Kim Anami?
Nope.
Kim Anami is, what do I call her? She's like this woman that is amazing. She actually was she in the world record? She will carry
Is she the one that went
pineapple.
She can pull books up with her pelvic floor, right?
There is a woman that is actually I don't think that this is her, but she will carry a pineapple attached to, I think it may be from a jade egg, and then it'll attach it to something like a pineapple, and then she'll just, she has pictures online of it. And so she has been known to help women have orgasms from every part of their body, from nipple stimulation to anal stimulation and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, she has very strong pelvic floor muscles because she can hang virtually anything from her vagina, and she has pictures on her website of it. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, Kim Anami. She's been known to be kind of like the guru in this, in all things vagina and sex and orgasms. But anyway, so tell me how you work with people.
So I'm co-founder of a device called Yarlap, and it is an FDA cleared medical device to treat urinary incontinence. So what it does is it goes into your vagina like a tampon, and then you set a program, and then it sends a signal similar to the one your brain would send to your muscles, but it sends it from the device to the muscle, and it tones your pelvic floor muscles for you. All you do is sit there or lie down, depending on which one you feel more comfortable with. But you insert it, turn it on, figure out a contraction level that's really comfortable. We've had some women who called us because they accidentally fell asleep. So it's very comfortable to use, and it sends a signal directly, because sometimes when you try to send a signal from your brain to your muscle, it's either jumbled, you engage part of your pelvic floor, or you engage the entirety of the pelvic floor. But you have to work out those pelvic floor muscles quite a few times, multiple times a day. And sometimes it's hard to just do 10 on your own. So the Yarlap just does hundreds of them for you in 20 minutes. And you do that 3 to 5 days a week, and then that's it.
And what is that sensation like?
So for me, it feels like a firm handshake in the vagina. Some people say it feels like butterflies. Some people say it just feels like a muscle movement. But it's just your muscles moving. So if you think about engaging your pelvic floor muscles now, if you can, it's a similar, if not the same sensation, because it's engaging your pelvic floor muscles.
So does it feel like an orgasm?
So you can't get sexually stimulated. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but it's not a sex toy.
Right.
It is a medical device to treat urinary incontinence. There's no buzzing, vibration, pulsing, or anything like that. It's literally like if you went to physical therapy And if you've used one of those muscle movement machines there, and it just moves your muscles for you, kind of like a TENS machine, it's very similar. It's an NMES. Yeah, it's a neuromuscle electrostimulator device. So it moves that muscle for you. There is no vibration or pulsing or sucking or anything like that, but it does engage your pelvic floor muscles so that, next time you do have your orgasm, you have like a great response to it, because your pelvic floor muscles have been engaged and they know what to do.
I see. And so is it it's contracting it on its own? Is that how it is? How it works?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
And you have control over it. Are there different levels?
Yeah. So it's all customizable for your comfort level. It's a preset program. So the programs you cannot change, but the comfort level of which the signal is. So a feeling of inside your vagina, making the muscles move, that's all customizable for your body, because everyone's vagina has a different sensation. Everyone's pelvic floor has a different tone. So it's not like a one size fit all situation.
And this tampon, like, that you're putting in there, what size is it? Is it the size of like a light tampon? Is it the size of a regular?
No, it's kind of like the size of a tube of lipstick. So it's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit thicker at the top, but it's about the size of a tube of lipstick. So it goes into the first 2 inches of your vagina. It's not massive by any means.
Okay. And then, so you're pushing it all the way in, or are you just
the first 2 inches of your vagina? So you go in and you put into the first 2 inches of your vagina. That's it. There's a little base where it tells you, that's all you have to put it in. You don't need to shove it all the way inside. It's just the first 2 inches, and you just sit there and let the Yarlap do everything else for you.
And so how often, you said women do this like 2 or 3 times a week?
Mm-hmm. You can use it 3 to 5 days a week.
Oh, okay.
And you want to build it into your routine, just like any other exercise. If you only do it once ever, you're not going to reap the benefit. So you want to build it into your routine 3 to 5 days a week, anywhere between 2 to 12 weeks to start getting like really positive results.
Okay. And so when's the soonest you would start feeling some results?
Anywhere between that 2 to 12 week mark, because we're able to treat anywhere between light and severe urinary incontinence. So people who have some people who have complete control, but they want to use it as a preventative measure, to people who have atrophy and they can't clench their muscles no matter what they do. And, they laugh, sneeze, cough, pee themselves, can't help it. There's no way around it. Urge to pee, they cannot hold it. It just happens. So there is just a very wide spectrum of what we treat. So it's anywhere between 2 to 12 weeks.
Okay. Got it. And have women ever complained that it may be a little bit too big for them? What if they're super tight? This is not for them.
So there are pelvic floor relax programs in there. We've had like a handful of people who said that, there's no way that they can use it, but that's just a very, very small amount. I would say I can count on one hand how many people, and we've been in business for 5 years. So okay. It's a pretty small pool. It's, again, the Yarlap is pretty small. And we're very proud about what we do. And I think that we get these really great results because the Yarlap does everything for you. You don't have to think about isolating the correct muscles, sitting there wondering if you're using the right muscles, if you're using it for the right amount of time. Are you doing the correct work ratio? Are you overworking the muscles? Are you underworking them? And you have so many what ifs going through your head that the Yarlap just takes all of that, throws it away, and you just let the Yarlap do everything for you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Plus, women who may be possibly using, incontinence pads and things like that, they won't need to buy them anymore, I would assume, correct?
Yeah. So that's our hope, is that you no longer have to, you no longer have this involuntary leakage, that you treat the problem at its root.
Right. That's amazing. I mean, it also helps with, disposing of that, and also, well, I don't know if those are recyclable, but I'm assuming it's having incontinence and having to use those pads. It's just not only an expense, but not good for the environment as well.
Right. There was like a huge thing where there's so many adult diapers in landfills now.
Wow.
The population now has like a large amount of people who have urinary incontinence. In America alone, in the United States alone, 1 in 3 women will have some form of urinary incontinence in their life. 1 in 3. So
wow.
It's not something where you're like, oh, I don't know anybody. Chances are you know somebody, but the chances of it actually being talked about are very small.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're trying to treat that and give people a better quality of life. We have some people who can't go places. In fact, that's actually how we started Yarlap, as one of our close family friends, an aunt to me, but in like a Midwestern sense where it's not blood related, who could not leave the house because she knew she had 15 minutes. And she didn't want to go anywhere else. She didn't want to pee. She stopped going to workout classes. Her entire life was mapped out at where a restroom was.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not an uncommon
story
it's not. That we hear.
Right.
So we're trying to make sure that, with the Yarlap, you treat the issue and you no longer are ruled by where is the nearest bathroom. You're not looking around, mapping out where all the bathrooms are. You're taking in, your quality of life has bettered because this is one aspect that you no longer have to worry about.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's amazing. How can people find you?
So you can find us on yarlap.com, YARLAP.com, or you can talk to us on social media. Instagram, it's at Yarlap_OTC. Facebook, it's at Yarlap OTC, and you can ask us questions. If you look at it and you're curious, you can always send us a message. We're happy to respond and talk to you.
Basically, is it OTC, meaning over the counter?
Yes, we are over the counter. So you can get us online directly at the website, or actually on Amazon as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And what's the cost of this?
So it's $2.99 normally, and then we have a 35 off promotional code that you can use at checkout.
Okay. Is that something that's online, or is that, do you want me to add that to the show notes?
You can add it to the show notes if you'd like.
What is the code? Are you allowed to tell me?
Yes. Sorry. It's gift 35.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Super original. Very authentic. I know.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much. That's great. I mean, this is really going to help so many women that are they silently suffer with this. And, the device sounds great. It does sound similar to the device that women use. Is it on their butt and on their abs to like grow the muscles? Is it the same sort of thing? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Those, I don't know if they're like FDA regulated at all.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Those. I know that I like see them online like late at night, or like on TV late at night. But we're heavily regulated by the FDA, like heavily regulated.
Sure.
Yeah. So
yeah, a lot of cosmetic places have it. Gosh, I can't think of the name of it right now. They put on your butt and it's, or abs, and they're like, this is like doing, I don't know how many sit-ups. And so it's contracting the muscle and essentially growing your abs and actually growing your butt.
Right.
I can't think of the name.
I think that I don't know the results from them, but the idea of just toning it all, yes, it is very similar because, again, a lot of times women don't know if they're doing it properly or if they have written instructions that really gets jumbled and you don't know if you're using the right muscles and anything. So we just took all of that guesswork, threw it out the window for you. So
Sure.
the Yarlap just does everything for you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Was there any last things you wanted to mention that maybe we didn't, that you feel is important?
No, I mean, I know one statistic, but it's like daunting and negative. So I don't want to end it. So I will say a little, like I'll stand on a soapbox for a second, but over 50% of women who try to do a Kegel exercise on their own can't do them properly, or even with written instructions, they cannot do it properly.
Right.
And so if you're trying to do these exercises and you're like, well, they're not working, they don't do anything for me, don't be frustrated with yourself. It's extremely common because again, you can't see them and they're isolated and it's hard and you have to do so many of them to get an inkling of the benefits you read about. So don't think that like this is something that's just on you, you're alone. Make sure that you have the right proper tools and you have the right proper resources, and then you should be in a much better place. But I think that a lot of people almost cocoon themselves into thinking that it's just them. It's an only them problem. They're the only ones that have this issue. It's embarrassing. They're afraid of being the butt of the joke, etc. Of all these like nasty things, and just spiral to where they just shut it out and it's no longer a problem if you no longer think about that. And I just want to tell you, you are not alone. You just want to make sure you have the right tools and the right resources. Maybe that includes the Yarlap in your tool. I don't know. But don't ever be too hard on yourself when it comes to your wellness. Taking that initiative, taking that step is already half of the battle.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here. I'm sure this will help so many women. And I'll have everything in the show notes, as well as the link and the promo code. So just head on over there. MaryEllen, thank you so much for taking the time out today to enlighten us about pelvic floor dysfunction. And thank you for creating this device to help so many women.
Thank you so much for having me on here. It was an absolute pleasure. And thank you.
You're welcome. We'll talk soon. Well, I hope you love this conversation. If, in fact, you have or are having some urinary incontinence issues. To learn more about MaryEllen and for the Yarlap, head on over to the show notes, margaretromero.com/190 for the details. And if any of you that are listening right now have or are suffering from an autoimmune condition, whether that's MS or lupus, I am coming out with a free masterclass very, very soon. And I am going to add a link to the show notes next week. But I just wanted to give you a heads up so you don't miss out. I'm also going to be posting it on Instagram. If you are not following me on there, I am there every single day. And it's Margaret Romero on Instagram. So Instagram.com/Margaret Romero. I will speak to you all next week. Have a beautiful rest of your week and weekend, and wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you are well and you are healthy. Bye for now.